Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I am the professor, and thank you for joining my YouTube channel. Today, we're going to talk about EMINIFX. And I know I have been doing these videos in Creole because most of my viewers are Haitian Americans, but I have received some messages asking me to explain what's going on with the EMINIFX and Eedy Alexandre case in English. So I'm doing this. So for my viewers who do not speak Creole. Well, you will recall that I have been following this case for a number of months now, over 9 months. And briefly, I just want to remind you how this whole thing started. Eedy Alexandre started EMINIFX, asking people to invest in a Ponzi scheme and a pyramid. So he never told his investors that this was a Ponzi scheme. Basically, very simple. He took money from you, you bring somebody else, you use your money, you use the person's money to pay you. Classic Ponzi scheme. So he was arrested back in May. And when he got arrested, the first thing I said after looking at the evidence, looking at EMINIFX, I said, listen, there's no way that Eedy Alexandre will be able to defend this case. The best way for him to do this is to plead guilty. So Eedy Alexandre, of course, on February 12, 2023, did plead guilty. But what he did, and I'm going to explain this to you, and I want you people to understand, because I know there's been a lot of misinformation, especially in the Haitian community, where you have people giving people the wrong information. But I'm going to explain to you exactly what's going on. When Eedy Alexandre decided to plead guilty, he could have pleaded guilty. He could have just go in and say, Your Honor, I'm guilty. I did this. I broke the law. Have mercy on my soul. He didn't do that. What he did was negotiated the investors' money, $248 million, in the hope of getting a lesser sentence, okay? Reduces is a prison sentence. So let me explain to you how forfeiture works. Suppose you committed a crime. You got arrested and you made $100 million in the crime you committed, okay? That $100 million is in your account. The government doesn't know where it is. The government can find the money. Now, you can go to trial, get convicted, and sent to prison for 20 years. And then the government then will start what we call a forfeiture action, which is a civil action, trying to recoup the money you made from the crime, the fruit of the crime, the fruit of the bad acts. That's what lawyers call it, the fruit of the crime. So what Eedy Alexandre did, and I think his lawyers explained this to him, which was, for him, it was good. For the investors, it was bad. He agreed to forfeit the money, the investors' money, to the government. Now, hear me out clearly what I'm telling you. Once the money is forfeited to the government, that money becomes the property of the United States of America. Okay? Point bar. That's it. There is no if and but about it. That's the way it is. Now, Congress passed a law. Under the Forfeiture Act, Congress passed a law. The law delineated very clearly when the government forfeited a certain property, there may be third parties like you who invested in EMINIFX who may have an interest in that property, which is the money. There's a whole procedure that Congress voted on, Congress passed, that allow you, me as a third party, to make a claim against that money. Now, on February 13, actually February 16, the judge issued a preliminary order in the criminal case of United States versus Eedy Alexandre. In the preliminary order, the judge basically followed the law of remission, which is under the Forfeiture Act. What the judge said, that money, the $248 million, is going to the U.S. Marshal, not to the receiver. The receiver has absolutely nothing to do with that money. That money goes to the U.S. Marshal. Now, the judge in his order He followed the law. He followed the statute passed by Congress. And the statute said that anyone, you, me, anyone who invested in EMINIFX, the only way they're ever going to see a penny is if each person comes to court, file a petition, and bring the evidence that the money that Eedy Alexandre gave to the government, part of that money belongs to them. That's it. Now, Eedy Alexandre and some of the scoundrel and EMINIFX have been telling people, don't do anything, you can wait, blah, blah, blah. Somehow the receiver is going to give you the money. First of all, let me just talk to you about the receiver, right? How did the receiver come about? The receiver has nothing to do with the criminal case. The receiver came out of the case of FTC, Federal Trade Commission, versus Eedy Alexandre and EMINIFX. FTC is a Federal Trade Commission. It's a U.S. government agency. Basically, they sue Eedy in a civil case. And when they sue someone in a civil case, they always often hire a receiver. The receiver works for FTC. The receiver's job is to collect any property that comes out of the civil case. So when the civil case started, whatever property that went to the receiver, that property will be turned over under the Forfeiture Act, under the Forfeiture Agreement between the U.S. and Eedy Alexandre. Now, what Eedy Alexandre did was terrible to the class. Eedy Alexandre doesn't give a shit about you. He doesn't care. The guy is a sociopath, okay? The guy is a criminal. He's a sociopath. He doesn't understand what his action, what impact his actions have on the Haitian community. He doesn't care. And unfortunately, we have a lot of dumb people. I'm sorry to say this guy, this is Wolf, but we have a lot of stupid people. Well, I shouldn't say that. Excuse me, I take that back. We have a lot of uninformed people. I think that's a better choice of word. A lot of uninformed people who will not listen to reason, who will not listen to people who knows. I spent 20 years practicing law. I'm not a lawyer now. I don't have a license, but I still have the knowledge. You can't take the knowledge out of my head, period. And, you know, I've consulted with other attorneys all the time talking about, you know, cases. So I'm telling you, the only way you're going to get your money, very simple. The order that was issued by Judge CANAN said it very clearly. It tracks the statute, the forfeiture statute. The government is going to publish a notice on their website. And once the notice is published, I will let you know. If you follow me, you would know that. I will let you know the same day. Once the notice is published, from the day the notice is published, you have 60 days to file your petition. Now, that's not enough time. And this is not just in the case of Eedy Alexandre, guys. This is not something that is just for Eedy. They didn't create this for Eedy. This is the way that forfeiture works. This is the way it happens in every case. Now, I'm going to tell you this. In every case that I've seen where the defendant forfeited the property to the government, 99% out of the time, the money stays with the government. And I'm going to explain to you why. In the case of EMINIFX, 62,000 people invested nearly $300 million. I have spoken to about 350 people so far that calls me every day, send me messages. Not one single person has a contract with either Eedy Alexandre or EMINIFX. Not one single contract. People were told by the pastors, by people in the church, hey, send your money to this bank account. And people were just wiring money to bank account that belonged to Eedy Alexandre or EMINIFX. And that is the reason why Eedy Alexandre got arrested, because Bank of America actually called the FBI and said, hey, this is something fishy going on here. I need you to take a look at it. So none of you have any contract. None of you have a piece of paper where Eedy Alexandre signed, where you signed. So technically, the money you invested on EMINIFX was a gift to Eedy Alexandre. Was a gift to Eedy Alexandre. You did not have a contract with him. So why is that important? When you go to court and say, Your Honor, that $250 million that the Marshal Service is holding, 50,000 of it belongs to me. and the judge is going to say, explain to me how. And you're going to say, well, Your Honor, I wired $50,000 to Eddie Alexandre's account. This is the account number. This is this, this is that. The judge is going to say, okay, did you have a contract with Eddie? No. Did you have a piece of paper or something that says Eddie's going to take your money, he's going to invest it for you, and you're going to get X% of return? And if that doesn't happen, what obligation does Eddie have under the contract? You have absolutely nothing. To me, that is stupidity, okay? That is just stupidity. And I can understand why most of you actually fell for that, because this started inside the Adventist, Seventh-day Adventist church. This criminality, this scam was made possible because the Seventh-day Adventist church and pastors made it possible. If they had cut it off from the beginning, this wouldn't happen. So all of the people, a lot of the people, 60 to 70% of the people who invest in EMINIFX are from the Seventh-day Adventist church. So I have people that I have interviewed who told me that the pastors came to their job, pastors of the church came to their job asking them to invest in EMINIFX, asking them to give them the money to invest $10,000, $15,000, $20,000. So this is a well-organized criminal enterprise. That's what EMINIFX is. Now, if you want to listen to what some of these bozos are saying with regard to the law, with regard to where you stand and how you get your money back, you know, by my guess, be my guest, go and listen. And then you're going to come back and say the professor was right. Just when Eddie Alexandre was arrested, I explained to you all how the case was going to unfold and what was going to happen and how Eddie Alexandre could never have a defense. And what happened? Exactly everything that I've told you from the day the case started to now, everything became true. Now, Eddie Alexandre saved himself. He could have pleaded guilty and not give the money to the government. He could have done that. He could have said, you know what? I'm going to return the money to the investor myself. Okay? I mean, those are the money that the government didn't know where they were, because remember that there were crypto account in Estonia and bank account in Europe that the government didn't have access to. And Eddie Alexandre basically gave him access to it because he negotiated the money so that instead of getting 20 years, 15 years, whatever, now he might be facing between 2 to 5 years because he gave the money to the government. And the government loves when the defendant gave the money to them. Now, if anyone tells you that the receiver is going to send you a check, you are dreaming, you are stupid to believe that. The receiver is not going to give you a check because the receiver doesn't have the money. The money has been forfeited to the government. The money has been given to the US government. The receiver is from the civil case, have nothing to do with the criminal case. He's not a party to it. He doesn't know anything about it. He doesn't have any money to give you. So my advice to you is very simple, very simple, very simple. And I can understand why some of you have issues, and let me explain why. If you had invested $5,000 in EMINIFX, okay, and you have to hire a lawyer now to do the petition for you in federal court, because I wouldn't advise anyone to attempt to represent themselves in federal court. This is a whole different ballgame. This is not state court. Federal court is very proper, very no nonsense. Either you know, you don't know, the judge doesn't care whether you are, you know, pro se, which you're representing yourself, or whether you are attorney. You either know the law in the world or you don't, period, or they'll throw you out. So you're gonna need a lawyer to do that for you. Now, if you invested $5,000 or $10,000, to pay a lawyer to try to recoup that money doesn't make sense economically, because you basically going to pay an attorney $5,000, $10,000 to try to recoup $5,000 or $10,000. That doesn't make sense. So many of you are not going to get your money back. And it's just simple, guys. Many of you are not going to get your money back. However, for people who invested between 20 to 100 to $1 million, these people can actually hire an attorney. The attorney is going to file a petition on your behalf. You have to give the attorney all the paperwork, all the evidence that, you know, you actually send money to Eddie. And the attorney is going to attempt to get your money back. This is the only way you may get some money back. So who is the winner and the loser in this? All of the investors in EMINIFX are just all losers. I'm sorry to say that, guys, but you are all losers. The winner, however, is Eedy Alexandre, and I'm going to explain to you why. Eedy Alexandre, this is not the first time this guy's been involved in a scam, okay? Under Aristide in Haiti, the guy was involved in a scam called Cooperative. He was involved in that. And I got that information from someone who knows Eedy very well. He was involved in that. He escaped. He came to the United States. He continued with his fraudulent action by creating EMINIFX. And many of you believe in the fact that he presented himself as a pastor. The guy is a scoundrel, is a criminal, is not a pastor, is a sociopath. How do you call people who prayed, who just simply pray on the ignorance of other people in their own community? How can you possibly take advantage of people who just don't know when you know better? You have to be a sociopath to actually take advantage of those you should be helping. So with the help of the church, of the Adventist, Seventh-day Adventist Church, Eedy Alexandre and 4 other pastors, their wife, and all of them will be named in a lawsuit eventually, they decided that they're going to do this criminal enterprise. And I call these people non-indicted co-conspirators because that's what they are, co-conspirators. And of course, if you end up losing your money, if you end up getting nothing, you would have a claim not only against Eedy Alexandre, but against all the people who were working with EMINIFX, whether the person was in charge of customer service, whether the person was the vice president, whether the person was telling people how to invest in the stock market. All of these people are responsible because they knew. But the church also may be responsible if they knew what their pastors were doing. So this channel is made for you, to give you the knowledge and the experience. So for those of you who speak English, I understand. I hope that I have explained where the case is. Eedy Alexandre is scheduled to be sentenced on July 12th. And I think that this is the day he might actually go to prison, the same day, because the case was supposed to be May 12th, but his lawyer said that Eedy Alexandre needed more time to make sure that he gets all the money under the forfeiture agreement to the government. So he's going to be back in court July 12th for sentence. And once Eedy Alexandre sentenced and goes to prison, and I'm telling you guys, if you don't move fast, you're not going to get your money. So if you want to wait and you want to listen, you want to wait, fine, because most of you probably going to lose the money. But I'm glad that there is a group of investors who are planning to bring a class action lawsuit against Eedy Alexandre and all his comrades who defrauded over 62,000 people. So this channel will continue to bring you the news on EMINIFX. Please continue to listen. Continue. Actually, if you haven't subscribed, please do subscribe. Do share this video with other people. And of course, my telephone number is actually in the video. I'm going to tell you. It's 509-850-7442. Please give me a call, text me. I try to respond to all my texts. I got a lot of texts daily about EMINIFX. If I don't respond right away, please be patient. I would respond to your text as you text me for information. So hopefully, very soon, there may be 2 attorneys who might be willing to help with the investors. And once that happens, if I know who they are, I would let you know also. Again, thank you for watching. Until I see you again.